Hello and welcome to Bird and Bird's Aviation and Defence Pioneer podcast series on sustainability. In this series, I speak to leaders addressing sustainability issues across the sector. My name is Paul Briggs, a consultant in our Aviation and Defence Group in London. In today's episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Monica Normark, Director of Biofuels Technology at KBR, for what I have no doubt will be another fascinating discussion. Hey, Monica.
Hi, Paul. Nice to see you.
Great to be interviewing you today. The great thing about this is before we get into all the corporate stuff, we just get to talk a little bit about you. So please tell me a little bit about yourself. Have you always had an interest in sustainability, or have you just jumped on the bandwagon?
I think a little bit about me. I have never pictured myself becoming an engineer, to be honest. I was always very curious as a person, and in young age wanted to solve problems. Didn't understood that was tied to engineering and how that can really be applied in engineering. Also because I didn't have anyone in my family or surrounding that was an engineer. So I didn't have that background on technical around me. So I think that I grew up in the northern part of Sweden, and looking at the pulp and paper industry in Sweden, I got curious what you can do, different products. And I think that is where my sustainability journey started, and what you can do from forestry, for example, very unique products that nature have if you really engineer it, and from a chemical perspective. So I didn't plan to be an engineer. I didn't plan to do a PhD in this subject either, but life is life, and I'm really happy I did it. And I think that is the really background why I'm here today, and also my role in KBR. So that drove me into sustainability, yes.
Yeah, just take me on a bit of a journey as to how did you get into sustainability at KBR?
Yeah, I had a really dream job before KBR. I had a chance to really work on green chemicals, second generation technology for different platforms, sugar, lignin. And when I was approached to join KBR to lead the Biofuels Technology portfolio to grow this area, it was really, intriguing. And it's like, this is a company that have the capabilities to really scale technology. And that was very important for me, because I've been very passionate to deploy solutions. Right. I've been working over 16 years, from lab, bench scale, pilot scale, into demo scale, but take it to the next level and make sure we get this new solutions deployed in industrial scale is really key for the transition itself globally. So that was the really, I saw KBR as this broad capabilities that would really make this happen.
Okay, well, I think that segues nicely. So tell me about KBR. This is a business that I've dealt with a lot over the years in aerospace and defense, but what's the strategy in relation to sustainability and biofuels?
I think KBR is a very broad company, as you mentioned. I think, we have delivered science, technology, and engineering solutions to governments and companies on a global scale. The key here is from KBR's perspective, to having more than, I think 75 technologies in different segments, different industry sectors, everything from refining and clean fuels and ammonia, hydrogen, in battery technology, key areas. And our goal has been to help our customers, the existing customer, to decarbonize with existing solutions, and then also bring the new solutions that really change, I would say, the feedstock, but you can utilize what you have. I think it's very important to do both in parallel. It's not always to think that we need to do parallel. We need to work with existing and help our customers to really achieve all their sustainability goals in a pragmatic way. I think KBR is very, very well positioned in this area, since we are very broad. We understand how technologies and different platforms are going to be linked in the future, and can really help our customers.
And all I'm interested in is aeroplanes and aviation and aerospace. So let's just sort of get into that. So sustainable aviation fuel. Everybody believes that SAF is kind of medium term the answer. You can put it in the existing equipment. So just tell me a little bit about it. So there's even some controversy about the use of the term sustainable aviation fuel. What is it and how do you describe it? And can you just explain how it is sustainable on a life cycle basis?
For myself, sustainable aviation fuel, if it's the right name or not, I'm more interested in what improvements do we bring to the industry, right, what it really stands for. And to your question, for me, it's something to really keep, the aircraft will still, if you're going to SAF, sustainable aviation fuel, or whatever you may call it, the fuel itself will emit CO2.
Burns like Jet A1.
Yeah, it will, because we are also saying that this solution, sustainable aviation fuel, doesn't need any extra, changes, and you work on the engine side. So it will, of course, emit more CO2. The key here is how circular is it? Are we introducing something that works in a circular way? So, for example, sustainable aviation fuel based on something from residues from the biomass agriculture sector that starts with the forestry, for example. It's a carbon sink. It takes up the CO2. We will utilize a product that is coming from that into the whole value chain. Yes, you're going to have combustion. You're going to be emitting CO2 again. The plant's going to take it in, or the forestry. So that's the most important thing for me, to make sure that we introduce something that really have a positive impact, that helps to reduce. We can't do everything all at once. We can't say we are not going to have any more fossil-based sources. It's not going to be that way, but we need to start in a pragmatic manner and take it step by step. So SAF is really sustainable aviation fuel, or whatever name you might find is the right name. Is the key is how much do we improve?
Right. Because I've got a load of friends who are sort of passionate about hydrogen and electric power, but that's only going to be powering small aeroplanes in the sort of medium term. So SAF, brilliant, major part of the solution, but there isn't enough of it, and it's too expensive. So what has to change in order for us to get anywhere near achieving net zero 2050 and meeting EU refuel commitments? What does the industry have to do in order to be able to produce enough sustainable aviation fuel?
Yeah, I think this is my concern today, of course, working in this field and really trying to push solutions out and show that the technology we have is ready to be scaled. Will it be improved? Yes. Will all these different solutions have improvements? Yes. But to your point is that it's still so much more expensive compared to the standard fossil jet kerosene. But if we flip it around then, okay, are we going to meet any of our goals in net zero 2050? We don't have the volumes. We know that. There are huge demand now for SAF. And the problem may be also that we have so many different sectors moving that also need to be scaling. It's about renewable energy sources that need to be implemented. Infrastructure needs to come and play. That also is related to a higher cost. SAF itself, yes, we can show we can produce a SAF that is X factors more expensive, but it's still going to be good enough. But without any incentives or long-term regulation for this, it's going to be very hard from a cost perspective. Then you can argue from a environmental perspective that we need to do this. But from a cost perspective and a business case, it's going to be really hard for investors to know, okay, I need to base my business case without any incentives. And I think that's important to understand when you look at this. If you don't have any incentives at all, how it's going to look in the future. But without this new solutions deployed in the ground and new, I would say, volumes, then it's going to be hard also to bring down the costs. It's like the chicken and egg situation here.
Right. And I guess you probably don't want to get too cornered on sort of US domestic politics or anything, but I guess that the current US administration has been very pro-change in this area, which has produced perhaps an imbalanced transatlantic. So at the moment, there isn't really a level playing field for regulation and incentives. Do you have any views on this, or would you rather just get on with the day job?
No, of course, I see this, and you know my background working in EU, many years, over 20 years with biofuels. In the end of the day, this needs to happen on a global scale. So the emissions is our global responsibility as such. What's happening now is that US is more pragmatic and more inclusive and allowing solutions to come to scale and be, from a financial perspective, have at least some carrots to be able to really enhance investments. And in Europe, we have taken another path, how we legislate and based on certain goals we want to see. And right or wrong, I'm looking at this that without putting the steel in the ground and really learning from scaling these different solutions, it's going to be hard. I mean, you can have a lot of legislation, you can have carrots or penalties or whatever, but someone needs to take the investments. And it needs to be not happening only in the US. It needs to be happening in Asia Pacific. It needs to be happening in Europe. So I think we all are looking to see what's going to happen. I hope that, all regions, I'm globally responsible for biofuels. So we are working actively globally. And, we will provide our support to our clients around the world.
Maybe just before we move on to finance, you have an alliance with Swedish Biofuels. What is that, and what benefit does that bring to your clients?
Yes, so with Swedish Biofuel, we have launched the Pure SAF technology. It's a technology based on Swedish Biofuel's technology development under the years with DARPA and US Air Force and Swedish Air Force. So they are really true pioneers of alcohol to jet. KBR and Swedish Biofuel has an alliance that KBR will globally license this technology to really help the sector to grow sustainable aviation fuel in a global scale. It's really important because Swedish Biofuel has developed a fungible jet fuel. And that means, by saying fungible jet fuel, it's not a blend component. It's something that really can be used as a drop-in SAF. So it's for the future. And I think this is really key. And KBR sees this as a pathway into growing SAFs. And even if we today only have ASTM permits to blend SAF for 50%, we really would like to see how we as KBR and Swedish Biofuel will bring this solution, scale it, and as we continue to grow the sustainable aviation fuel volumes, this will become essential to meet the targets for 2050.
Just one last sort of detailed topic is really about finance. And so a number of aircraft investors are looking to see, can they do a sustainably linked loan or lease, by which the metrics of the price of the money would be measured by use of SAF, for example. Are you having any engagement with that community? And I guess the related question is, the finance community, whether it's the aircraft or the airline or the general finance community, is looking at SAF production. I mean, do you have a view on who is going to finance this sort of step change required for this massive production?
Yeah, I think, we keep hearing it's a lot of money out there. Many people are interested to invest. Still, I see that when we approach investors and our clients are engaging with investors, they are really interested in producing SAF, and the SAF is really the hot topic now. I think where I'm struggling is how it will be valued. So, for example, we have a fungible jet fuel. Will it be valued more? Will it be more premium on having actually a fungible jet fuel that really can be seen as a drop-in? Will that be valued from a regulation or legislation perspective? So that is also what I think questions back to us from the investors' point of view. Also, if they really put in the money, how will it be valued back to produce a sustainable solution? I would see who's going to invest and who's going to be the finance growth of this. I mean, it's going to be a mix. It's a lot of tax money that needed in different forms. If it's going to be grants, or it's going to be that you can apply for, or it's going to be a lot of pension funds looking into SAF as well. And if you look at the airliners, they have their customers that want to be sure that they have traveled from a environmental perspective, they're meeting their targets. So end of the day, I think we would see that we as a whole we will contribute. And from an investor private investors, they are looking to see how, since it's not financially, cheaper, what mechanism can they put in place when you invest in SAF that makes sure that at least they see the benefit of from a business case and maybe reinvest them in more plants to come.
Okay, well, fascinating. And clearly, this change has to be financed. But listen, we're sort of coming towards the end now. And sort of this is, if you like, a bit more kind of lateral thinking. So, Monica, I think you know that at the end of every session, each speaker gets to ask the next speaker a question or a challenge. So the previous speaker, the challenge was, if you were a benevolent dictator and you could pass 3 laws, what would they be? Or if you like, you've rubbed Aladdin's lamp and you've got a magic genie and you've got 3 magic wishes. Think as big as you like, global. What 3 laws or wishes would you like to see?
Oh, wow. Yes, this is my dream every day.
All power.
So, yes, I would say in short answer here, I would say a law that really on a global scale regulates the need of having a incentivized structure in place to, I would say, put down the pathway forward to increased investment, meaning that you're going to be based this law on carbon intensity or the greenhouse gas emission reduction as we see today, but that needs to be on a global scale. And
Right.
It can consider different challenges in different regions, yes, but it needs to be a committed global law.
Right.
I would say the second that needs to go in hand is something on a regulatory basis on infrastructure, goes hand in hand on a global scale, that really makes sure that we would have, and that comes to governments itself, that really would be forced to put in new infrastructure to make sure we can implement these new solutions, and that really can have, I would say, the push that needs to come in the same time to make sure we capture the solutions. And the third one would be something on a global scale, how we work with permits, how it's going to be regulated, what is going to be measured, what is going to be seen as something that can, permits is a lot of permits, but also do we introduce something in the long term that makes it sustainable, motivated to do this, and that needs to have a global understanding and regulation as well.
Right. I'll get working on it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So now you get to ask the next speaker, what challenge would you like to give to the next speaker, or what question?
Yeah, so my question would be, when it comes to driving sustainable solutions and implementing them, what is the best approach to adopt and why?
Okay. Right. Well, we'll try that out in the next speaker. So listen, Monica, thank you so much. That's all we have time for now. Thank you for your insights and your opinions. And thank you, everybody, for listening to our podcast today. We hope you found it interesting. Any questions, please let me know. Get in touch with me, Paul Briggs. That's paul.briggs@twobirds.com, or you can find my details on the Bird and Bird website. Please look out for the latest episodes of this series, and you can find us on all good podcast platforms and on our website. So good day, everybody. Thank you very much.